Hey, now that we covered chapter 5 and chapter 6, now we enter into chapter 7. Chapter 7 is management, leadership, and employee empowerment. Chapter 7 is so very important because the majority of businesses fail because of people. Not because of ideas, not because of products, but because of people. Matter of fact, the book says 90% of small business failure is a result of poor management. What does that mean? Management, not organizing things, but we'll talk about organizing, but the concept of getting people to do what you need them to do. Is hiring hard? Yes. Why? Because people lie. Remember chapter 4, we talked about lying. Some of y'all lying like you enjoying this video. I don't know. But my point is, people lie. So they lie on their resume, they lie in the interview, and then they show up and they say they're going to work hard, but never do. So that's why from the very beginning, who you choose to work for you is so very important, and you have to plan to make sure there is success in that regard. The definition of management is the process used to accomplish organizational goals through planning, organizing, leading, and controlling organizational resources. There are 4 functions of management: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. All of them work together. But they're all people focused. They're all people focused. Planning deals with making sure you hire the right people. Organizing, putting people in the right spot. Leading, getting people to, or showing them exactly where you want them to go. And lastly, controlling is the last one. Controlling is getting people to finish whatever they start. And we're going to work through all of those concepts. But I want to start with the main idea. The main idea of why management is so hard. Planning, organizing, leading, controlling. Why is it so hard? Because it causes people to change. Raise your hand if you like to change. See? Nobody's hands went up. My hand didn't even go up. Why? Because we like things to be our way. We are creatures of comfort. Humans are creatures of comfort. We like things to be the same. We like habits, and we just continually do the same thing. Why? What does that mean for you? That means that most likely when people come to you, they're not going to work hard. They don't want to work hard. Very few people strive to. Now, is that a great opportunity for you? Yes, it is in business, because it allows you then to be that hard-working person who's building relationships, who's producing results, and also having a great reputation. Remember the foundation of the R is relationships, and that is dealing with people. Now, what's the best thing you can do when you're dealing with people? Become a great communicator. What does that mean? Learn how to listen. Those of you who have taken a speech class or anything like that, you know the difference between encoding and decoding a message. Encoding a message is making sure I'm creating the message with the listener in mind. Not what I want to hear, but with the listener in mind. That's what we talk about when we're talking about encoding a message. Decoding deals with the listener. What are they seeing? How can we make sure the message is very clear so they know exactly what we're asking them to do? The book put it this way, and when we talk about communication, I think it's very important. The book says on page 182, managers must practice the art of getting things done through organizational resources. What does that mean? Think about, we talked about the assumptions. Number 1, you can't do it alone. 2, you have to be artful. What does that mean? Everybody doesn't see the same thing in the same situation. Everybody sees different things. And when people see different things, you have to make sure you get everybody seeing the same thing. Is that hard? Yes, it is. Why? Because what I can say with a soft voice to one person, and that moves them, but to another person, I have to holler and scream and cuss at them to get them to do the exact same thing. But you have to know who you hire. And part of that is through your communication. Listen to them. How do they talk? How do they respond? How do they work with other people? Listening. Matter of fact, one business person said it this way, and I love this quote. It says, if you really want to listen, learn how to listen with your eyes and not with your ears. Think about that. Learn how to listen with your eyes, not with your ears. He says, if you're waiting on your ears, you're always too late. I love that. If you're waiting on your ears, you're always too late. So the thing is, learn how to listen with your eyes. What does that mean? The power of analysis, the power of deconstruction, learning to look beyond the surface, think below the surface, I should say. But if you're not a good communicator, you know what it's based on? Your assumption. You're assuming what people feel. You're assuming how people act. You're assuming how people will respond. You're assuming these things. Do I want you to assume? No. I want you to what? Analyze. Don't do assumption, do analysis. Don't do assumption, do analysis. And how does that help us in business? How does that help us in business? Very clearly, it makes us more effective and it makes us more efficient. These two words should guide every business practice: effective, efficient. Effective, efficient. What does it mean to be effective? Effective means that I did the right thing. Efficient means I did it at the lowest cost to the company. So let me break that down real quick. Effectiveness, making sure the customer is satisfied, right? Efficient means the customer is satisfied at the right price with the amount of time. Does that make sense? So for instance, this is why people get so upset when they go to McDonald's. Why? The food is cheap. So if the food is cheap, it should be fast. Think about that. If the price is low, it should be fast. Service should be fast if it's cheap. The higher your price, the more people are willing to wait. Because what happens? Then the balance starts to be in effectiveness, right? The higher the price, more people are concerned about your effectiveness, how well you do what you do. If it's cheap, guess what? People want it to be fast and quick. People want it to be fast and quick. So you have to think about that. If I'm going to solve a problem in business, I got to be effective and efficient. You cannot have one without the other. If you strive just to be effective, guess what? Your customer's going to leave because you're taking too long. But if you try to be fast but compromise quality, you still lose out. So what am I telling you to do? In your communication, when you look at people, when you run your business, you have to always think about this concept of being effective and being efficient. Both are very important. Think about it from the old question. Would you rather someone who solves the problem fast or just someone who solves the problem? In business, we want someone to solve the problem fast. Why? Because we have to think about environment. We have to think about the technological environment. We have to think about the competitive environment. We have to think about the economic environment. We have to think about the social environment. We have to think about the global business environment. And these things change all the time. So what happens is if you don't think about all these different environments, guess what happens? You lose out. So where am I coming in here in the last minute of this video? And then will be other videos as we go through chapter 7. The question is then, what do you need to know for the test from this? You need to know about effective and efficiency and how those two concepts are affected by price and product. Effectiveness and efficiency, how those are affected by price and by product, because that is very important to know. Number 2, you need to focus on the art. You need to focus on the art to communicate with people. Do you communicate with educated people different than you communicate with uneducated people? The answer, of course, is yes, but then how does that look? What does that look like? That's what you need to think about. And then lastly, you need to think about the concept of how do you find the right people? Because remember, your business is based on management. That management is the main reason businesses fail. And relationships is the bottom of those 3 R's. How do you find the right people? What do you look for? What skills do you look for in that person? And if you figure out the answer to those questions, I think you'll have a great understanding of the beginning of chapter 7. All right, talk to you later. Holla!